Hello and welcome to Happiness and Wellness. My name is Geeta Arora. Thank you for joining me today. In today's show, we'll be talking about the principles of Ayurveda and yoga and how it relates to your daily life. Stay tuned for more. In today's world, we have so much hustle and bustle, and everyone is trying to find balance and how to find ways to bring peace into their home, into their spiritual life, their personal life, their businesses. And I have the great pleasure to have Nivedita Ganapati with me today. Thank you for joining me, Nivedita, and I would like to ask you a few questions around that. Welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you. It's an absolute delight and honor to be here again, and I would looking forward to exploring and learning how to bring the age-old principles of yoga and Ayurveda into our personal, social, and professional lives.
Amazing, yes. This is a great conversation. So, you know, I want to start with soul purpose, because everybody talks about what's my soul purpose and why am I here? And most people don't even know, so they really don't care. But what does that mean to you, and what can you share around that?
Yes, I think, you know, from time immemorial, people have been asking this existential question of who am I, and what I have been trained to when somebody asks me these questions is to go through this paradigm in our yogic philosophy, that we have this concept of the 5-layered self. It's not just who you are as you appear in your physical body. It's a little bit like the Russian doll. You know, they believe that in yoga and Vedanta, they believe that there are 5 personalities that you have to tackle before you actually get to the question of who you are. And so the first layer is made up of the food that you eat. So it's called the food sheath. It's everything that you eat impacts who you are. And the next layer is a little bit more subtle, and we call it the energy body, the pranamaya kosha, and that is dealing with the life energy, the chi, ki, you know, in different traditions you talk about that, and how that relates to who you are. And then the one that more subtle, that goes beyond that, is the manomaya kosha, which is your emotional, your mental state of being. And you have to be able to understand your thoughts and see them clearly, witness them to understand who you are. And then when you're ready for that, you go beyond and you start dealing with or addressing your intellectual questions. That is the Vijnanamaya kosha. That also helps you to understand what are the deep driving desires and beliefs that drive you. And finally, we talk about the Anandamaya kosha, which is the bliss body. When you have answered and addressed these 4 layers, that's when you go to the state of bliss, which is you know who you are. And, you know, that's another conversation for another day.
Yes.
But I would actually like to learn from you how in Ayurveda, you know, I know that food plays a very important part in who you are and how your different personalities. So how does food and Ayurveda, what is the relationship with the personalities and of people?
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, because what you were describing, the koshas, from Annamaya kosha to Anandamaya kosha, all of it is from the gross body to the subtle energies. And when we look at a person, we look at them, and I know you're Nita, you're Nivedita, we call you Nita, and you know, I'm Geeta. So we know each other as what we see in the physical form. What you eat and how well you're nourishing your physical body is what shows up. Mm-hmm. And then it moves to the center of that, to the subtle energies of knowing how are you functioning with your mind and your body and your breath. So all of it is in context of the koshas. So with that, how it relates to Ayurveda, Ayurveda looks at all of it, because initially when we're looking at the physical body, we have to nourish it. You have to know your constitution. First of all, if you know that you are, and constitution in Ayurveda means if you are Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, or Kapha dosha, yes. And this is all based on the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, air, and space. And without confusing an audience who may not know too much about Ayurveda, the idea is that the 5 elements are broken down to these three categories called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And it gives us the opportunity to learn about your own personal nature as it relates to air and space. So some people, they like to talk a lot. They eat a lot of food, they don't gain any weight. How come that person can do that? And I look at a piece of cake and I gain 10 pounds.
Exactly.
You know, there's, it's like, it's not fair. But when we look at the science of Ayurveda, you can understand that the person who has a lot more air and space elements, they need the grounding. So what they need to eat are foods that have to do with, that's going to ground them, such as much more soups, heavier foods. The person who has more kapha constitution already comes into the world with heavier qualities, like the earthy qualities. It grounds them and it keeps them in balance from that perspective, but they need more stimulation to keep themselves going. So as far as the sole purpose is concerned, you know, bringing it back to that, the idea in Ayurveda is it gives you an opportunity to explore who you are based on your dosha.
Right.
So you have a better understanding of your own nature before you try to become, or you try to judge somebody else, like your boss or your children or your loved ones or your relationships.
You would be able to put things in perspective once you know why somebody behaves a certain way and reacts to a certain situation, their motivation, their drive, and their, you know, then you wouldn't be sort of feeling like they are attacking you personally, but you can understand that they're coming from a different personality type. So it helps you, I think, navigate through your personal and social situations, even in business.
Even in business, that's probably where people relate to it the most, because, you know, we go to work and we come home and it's almost like people have blinders on because you're running after some sort of success. But this is a great topic that we want to continue in our second segment, because it's all about mindful entrepreneurship, and you know about that stuff.
Right.
So we'll talk about that in that segment. But I wanted to ask you something else about the first part of yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga.
Right.
So the 8 limbs of yoga, it has the yama and niyama.
Right.
As the first ways of understanding your body and mind. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, definitely. To start with the excuse me, the yamas, they are very conscious behavior, and people normally think that this is behavior that monks would practice in the monasteries, but that is not the case, because it has significance even in the stressed out Silicon Valley lifestyle. And one of the core values, the first yama, is non-violence. And people get confused thinking that non-violence is when you don't hurt somebody physically, don't kill, and if you're a vegetarian. But that is a very, very literal interpretation of non-violence, because it has to be understood in its entirety, which is mind, body, and action. So just confining non-violence to your action is not enough. You have to introspect your thoughts and your words. They can be very violent. So once you are introspective, if you are aware, then you can bring non-violence to, you know, all these aspects of your...
Yeah, isn't it such that in looking at yamas, it's about the do's and don'ts for your personal self.
Right.
It's not really like, don't do this outside in the external world, but it's about how you take care of yourself first, your own mind, and your own body.
The first 5 principles, which are the yamas, it's about consciously crafting your behavior so that you turn out in your best possible self and you refine yourself to your highest potential. And the next 5, the niyamas, are self-purification processes, things like purity and how you cleanse your mind, your body, and of toxins. And Ayurveda plays a big role in that, doesn't it?
It does. And I like to look at it like this, that the yamas are about the do's and don'ts for yourself. It's not about putting it out there in the world, but it's about how you show up in the world. And the second 5 are the niyamas, are about your attitude.
Right.
So it's about, how's your attitude playing? Like, do you follow certain rules for yourself? Do you have the self-discipline to be able to be in the world and create the things that you expect others to do?
Right.
Because if we're not addressing those things ourselves, then how do we know, what can we expect from someone else, like our children?
Exactly.
You know, that's perfect examples, right? When you
Yes.
try to get them to do something, they're like, but you don't do it.
Exactly.
And then,
in fact, that brings us to truthfulness, which is the second yama. And again, I have this conversation with people, with clients, and they think it's about, it's too esoteric a principle. You can't, in the modern world, you cannot be completely truthful, and that's not true. It's not just about not telling a lie. Truthfulness also deals with being truthful to yourself, being truthful to your children, being truthful to your, anybody who you are engaging with, dealing with. And truthfulness is a question, it's a dilemma between being nice and being real. And then when we try to be nice, it's nothing wrong with trying to be nice, but as humans, we have these two very basic instincts, the instinct to belong, and that brings with it the need to get approval. And somewhere along the way, you compromise being true to yourself. And then the second instinct, which is the need to grow, to expand, and that is when you start sort of coming in contact with values and systems that maybe your group, your community, your business doesn't necessarily believe in. And then you have to decide, there's a choice to be made. So it goes beyond just telling a truth or not telling a truth, and telling a lie or not telling a lie. So
this is really good, because it brings me to remembering something, that many people now are creating intentions for, they have vision boards, and they want to manifest a certain way of life. And we've had conversations around the chakra system.
Yes.
But putting intentions out, does it not have to do with the motivation and the application of that particular way of your thoughts in order for something to manifest?
Right. Well, we've definitely discussed manifestation in detail before, but setting intentions, part of another niyama is self-study. So there you address and look at any of the behavior that any of the beliefs that impact your behavior. And then in setting intentions, you have to not just blindly set intentions, you have to gather the information that will if you're in business, you have to have all the information that you need in that particular business to set an intention. And then of course, you apply some of the like you said, the vision board, and then you go through your affirmations, and you have business partnerships, and all these other factors also bring the elements of not truthfulness, non-violence, the thing about non-access, all plays into it.
Right, and this is really important, because also, setting intentions, people want to do good, everybody wants to do good and be good. In looking at our society today, these riots that are happening and things that are going on in the world, I mean, we know these are the ancient scriptures that teach us how to be good and to feel a certain way. And the yamas and niyamas are a great way to understand the mind, about altering your behavior,
right?
Isn't it? So this all these riots and things that are going on in all over the world today.
Exactly.
The people are not able to control their minds, and the fostering of the own self. This is what's missing, and bringing it into our daily life, that's what's missing. And if the world had it so that they were able to apply this stuff, wouldn't it be in a miraculous place to live?
It's a brilliant way to segue into one of the other yamas, which is about brahmacharya, which talks about non-excess. And in that, they talk about, to actually be true to yourself, to purify yourself, to be able to control your senses, your behavior, your thoughts, your words, and your action, align them together. It is very important to practice brahmacharya, which is the non-excess. And non-excess, nowadays our bodies, our closets, and our carts are full of things. It's excess. We have forgotten what it is to have enough. We have somewhere along the way crossed enough and become addicted to things.
Yes.
And as long as you are able to control your food, your sleep, sex, recreation, entertainment, you can control your behavior. And all this appalling behavior about the recent greed and brutality, this is this appalling behavior. But it all comes down to not being able to control, not having that brahmacharya behavior in you, which is controlling. Excessive anything leads to this, you are out of control.
Yeah. You know, this is very interesting, but I had a question from a viewer who asked that she's a Christian, and you know, she was wondering if practicing yoga would somehow go against her religion, and so I would like to hear what how
It's
you would
interesting
respond to
because I
that.
have also been addressed these questions in the past, and my response to that is yoga is not anything to do with religion. It has nothing to do with Hinduism, other than the fact that it was developed and not even developed, it was discovered, I would say, in India, and that's why people think that it's something to do with religion. It's like saying that the law of gravity, because Newton found it in England, so then only English people or Christian people can follow the laws of gravity. That's ridiculous. So it has nothing to do with religion. It's about you know, living in your authenticity and practicing all these principles. These are non-denominational principles, you know,
Sure.
being true and being non-violent and not being possessive and you know, not being living in excess. It has nothing to do with religion. It has something to do with your own personal you know.
Sure, because it sounds like that this is a conversation. Yoga is a conversation about being human. It's about being yourself, your true self, before religion ever came into place.
Right,
Because
right.
when we're all come onto the planet, we don't know who we are. We're coming through the womb, and there's a whole all these principles around understanding that conversation. But I thought it was a this yamas and niyamas is a great way to help people understand that how they can channel their energies into being good human beings,
Right.
right? And
like you said, even all these behavior that is coming out, which is, I would also relate to one of the other yamas, which is about possessiveness or being non-possessive. What we have to understand is nothing belongs to us. Even the air that we breathe in must be exhaled. So in this desperation to grab, cling, and you know, define boundaries, this is mine, we forget somewhere along the way that at some point you have to share things, and not just material things, being inclusive in your thoughts, in your, you know, in your behavior. That somewhere along the way I think we have, you know, lost that, and it would be good to introspect and then go back and you know,
so sharing,
see.
we got to
sharing,
share.
absolutely
Gotta share everything.
non-possessive.
Yes.
And sharing is not literally sharing, just being open to somebody else's viewpoint and their way of looking, because what we see, there is no absolute truth. It is your truth. It is the story you are telling about yourself or about others, and this has been conditioned by your limited beliefs. And just because you are not exposed to or not aware of somebody else or a group or a community's way of looking at things or perceiving things doesn't necessarily make it a falsehood.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, and this is all related to how we use our resources in the world.
Right.
You know, money, time, energy. In addition to that, the corporations and companies, they know how to give us comforts. So everybody is out there creating something, a product. How many products do we have that gives us comforts?
Right.
Or gives us status, a nicer car, a nicer house, a nicer community, whatever it is, it's all. So as people build on that, there's a separation of community that starts to occur with people having a particular type of knowledge about who they are, and the people who are getting more access and gaining. So there's a separation happening in the community. However, if everybody knew that it's up to you, how much what you work for is what you get.
Yeah.
And what you want is what you get. It's whatever you desire is what you get.
Right.
So in that quest of finding things, there's no right or wrong, but it doesn't mean you disrespect the ones that don't have what you have.
Yes.
And, you know, creating those lines, those boundaries, those separation
and
between
I think
people.
The more gadgets and things and comforts and technology you create, what I'm beginning to see is it is creating a sense of entitlement. You know, and what people don't understand is when you feel entitled to something, you have to also develop the competency to receive it. And I have seen, you know, when my children, we go to India, these people have latest gadgets, you know, everything that life can offer. They have a very privileged life here. And yet they're waiting for the next iPhone to be released, or the next computer laptop to be released, or the next app to be released, and they're not necessarily enjoying what is. They're just waiting for something external to make them happy. And then they go and visit these developing countries, and they see kids on the street just sheer, when it rains they are jumping and having fun, and they are sharing a small piece of bread, 5 of them, and the kids are baffled. They don't know how they're happy, because to them they have attached material acquisition as a precondition for being happy.
Yes.
And they have forgotten that happiness is inside. You cannot wait to get the next thing to be happy, because human beings, our nature is such that we want it all. So if you have, you know, infinity minus 1, you're still not going to be happy, because there is that one thing that you don't have to be happy.
Absolutely.
So you have to go inwards, and that is where yoga and Ayurveda, I think, helps you. And it is, I wanted to ask you, because a friend of mine, every time, you know, she goes through this spaciness and she doesn't know what she wants, and she's all over the place, and I recommend that why doesn't she consult an Ayurvedic practitioner and do panchakarma, and she's saying, oh, I don't have the money and I don't have the time, and yet she can find the money and time to go shopping and you know, stuff her house with more things when there's no space. So how does panchakarma help you in finding that space, that you know, to declutter and to detox? How does it help you?
Well, that's a fantastic question. You know, Ayurveda is designed for each person to understand their own mind and body from inside out. When people choose to go and spend money on shoes and clothing, or go on vacations and go and gossip and watch TV and do other things, and rather than taking care of their own wellness, then it says something about where their mindset is. When someone is very committed to achieving health and wellness and having the best of optimal health, then they're committed to it, and they're going to do it no matter what. People have almost no money and they do it.
Right.
There are a couple different kinds of people who do it. One is someone who, and panchakarma is a detox program for the people who don't know what that is. It's a detox program that helps you to regenerate those cells that have been decaying within. It's been aging and has got a lot of clutter over it, basically, to put it in a nutshell. It's the toxins that build up through mind, body, emotions, all these things that happen in our lives. We build up all this garbage within us. So where do we take things out? In Ayurveda, the nourishment process is just as important as the elimination process.
Right.
So it's very important to, whatever you eat, there has to be ways of eliminating the garbage that comes out of that too. So in our society, what do we eat? A lot of processed foods. Not you and I, maybe, but but a lot of people.
Right.
And you know, I've been guilty of it, because I will grab a bag of chips here and there.
It's normal.
But the thing is that when you do that all the time, what happens to the body? The liver gets overloaded, the kidneys don't know how to flush itself out, and it causes problems in the body. So panchakarma is a great way for a person to understand who they are, and it also, the great thing about it is that it goes so deep that it also resets the cellular level of a person. The deep memories of what's going on, or perhaps happened in the past, or trauma. Something. It's not to make you cry and to pull that stuff out. It's not that kind of a therapy session, but it's a way of acknowledging and looking at your body and mind and saying, okay, this is who I am. This is what I've gone through, and I haven't even had time to process all the pain I had gone through, you know, in the past. So here's an opportunity for me to reset myself and being vulnerable about it too.
So to clarify this for our viewers, because many of the younger generation keep asking me, and I just throw out the word panchakarma, assuming that people know, what exactly is panchakarma?
Panchakarma is, panch means 5, and karma is the different types of actions.
Right.
Karma translates to actions, some kinds of cleanses, we call it. So there are different types of cleanses, and without getting too technical with it, because we have like 4 minutes left now in the show, but it's a way of balancing your hormones, your muscles, your bone tissue, the reproductive organs, your mental state, your emotional state, your physical state. All of it gets addressed, because it's not like a detox that you go down the store and buy a colon cleanse or a colon detox, or it looks at who you are, what's your dosha, and then based on your dosha, it's now addressing everything about you.
So your personality, and then, but is it time bound, and you know, how many days, and what exactly a person goes through it?
There is a process. So there is a pre-cleanse that occurs, and then we go through the cleansing process. It could be 7 days, it could be 5 days, it could be 21 days.
Right.
And you go through the whole process. Then once the process is complete, so in the time when you're doing the pre-cleanse, it's like loosening up that lasagna pan.
Right.
You know, when you cook pasta and that pan has caked on that lasagna, you got to soak it. So it's like soaking up that garbage. So you go through the 7 days, the 21 days, and we do the actual body work. It's also mind panchakarma too, because we're having a lot of conversations about where are you now, where are you going, and what do you want to create. And then right after that, once that cleanse is complete, then we give some type of herbs or something to regenerate the cells, because there's been a lot of breakdown that's happened and cleansing that's occurred. So now we give herbs to regenerate and bring the person back to balance.
So I understand that this is not a one-size-fits-all. It is very, very personalized for each person and very individualized, and you go through their personalities, and then you determine and discuss the treatment or the detox plan.
Absolutely. Sometimes people will come in and they'll say, you know, I need a detox. Right. And you look at them and they actually need nourishment.
Right.
So you can't clean them anymore because they're so weak.
Yes.
If you clean them anymore, they're going to be hospitalized probably.
Right.
Because they're losing too much out of their system. So that person needs to build up and nourished. And then people who come in and who don't want to break down more because the accumulation is nice, and especially someone that you get, I have a client of mine, she came in and she said to me, you know, she's a kapha constitution and she was struggling with weight gain and she wanted to lose weight and get her body back in balance. So she asked me, why would I put bitter into this body? I don't like bitter foods. Why would I put the bitter foods into my body? Right. So the Ayurvedic principles are that, you know, sweet, sour, salty, astringent, bitter, and pungent are the 6 tastes that we look at. So for that body type, you know, she really needed astringent, bitter, and pungent.
Right.
So with that, we're almost like 30 seconds left into the show. And this is a great conversation, so I want to keep continuing it and allow people to continue the conversation about how we can take it and put it into our businesses and society. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll continue the conversation in mindful, conscious entrepreneurship in the next segment. So join us for that. And send us our questions, comments, and also if you want to learn more about the work we're doing and what we're talking about, you can get my book, which is The Divine Delight. It's available on Amazon. Thank you for watching.